Well, everybody, welcome to Intersections. I guess we'll just jump right in because our guest is already here backstage. So I'll just do the official welcome and then introduce our first guest. Gregarious, I'm not sure, our producer, if he's multitasking, but I'm just going to add Hank directly to this screen right now. Hank, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
What's up? How are you guys doing?
Good. Well, we're doing all right. I mean, I'm just going to give you the formal introduction that I have here, and then we'll just jump right in because your resume is impressive, but also you are a dear friend, Hank. We've known each other for way too many years than I want to count. But I've learned so much from you over the years. You're the co-founder of Concept Farm, an award-winning digital agency. You're an author. You have a new book, which we'll talk about. You're an Emmy Award winner. You're a keynote speaker. You're a university professor at University of Southern California's Marshall School of Business. I've had the distinct pleasure of joining your class, meeting your students, which has been amazing. They always continue to impress me. I see their work online. Hank, welcome to Intersections.
Thank you very, very much. And the other thing that I am, to quote you, Brian, is I'm a human being. Behind all of that is a person. And we tend to lose sight of that all the time.
We do.
We do. And it's great to be with John. I just am in awe of all the work that you've done. It's amazing. The more I learn about you, the more time I want to spend with you. And Brian, you said we've been friends for a while. And to pick up what John said, Brian was the person that was my mentor to get me into the digital world, coming from the traditional media world. And that was a number of years ago, before it was cool, man. And we were doing a lot together. And you taught me, so I owe you an awful lot, and I really appreciate it. And you are so generous with my class. You're there for me all the time. And John, now that I have you, I'm sure next semester or two you're gonna opt in for a guest lecture as well sometime.
Well, sometimes I get nostalgic for the halls of academe, having inhabited them for quite a while. So maybe I'll get that nostalgia again.
That's great. It's great to be with you. I'm coming to you, by the way, from my Palm Springs campus. We've been on Zoom for the last year and a half.
I was going to ask if you were coming in from Palm Springs.
Oh man, I've been on Zoom. That's an experience. I could talk to you about what that's been like for the last year or so. It's really been interesting.
I could only imagine, especially we had Erica Dawal on the other couple of weeks ago. Gosh, it just seems like yesterday. She's the author of Digital Body Language, and she talked about how basically we have to reimagine our complete interactions because of this digital first world. And she talked about how reading an email, for example, was the new art of listening. And I thought that was so incredible because we have to give a little bit more of ourselves in order to break that fourth wall, I guess is a good way to put it. But that's why why Zoom fatigue is a real thing. But Hank, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm going to dive in, and John, I might turn it over to you because I actually see somebody outside my door, and I'm not exactly sure what that is. Interesting
Welcome to the world of new media.
Absolutely.
I hope it's not an intruder.
Yeah, we'll find out. You guys just speed dial 911 just in case. But Hank, I'll start. So you have a new book, and I'd like to. I mean, you have many books, and you've been one of the most creative minds. Also, one of the most humble people I know. But when you get going, man, do you inspire? So your new book is From Madman to Happy Farmer, 55 years of sage advice from a marketing guru still crazy about the ad biz. So tell us about the book and the story behind it, Hank.
Well, the story, as I said, I've written a couple of other books. I co-authored a couple of books with the great psychologist and business coach, Dr. Kathy Kramer, and it was on a thing called ASSET, ASSET, asset-based thinking and the power of positivity. And we translated that into business and marketing. And it was a great book and a great experience. And my dear friend Kathy has left us, but her spirit lives on in everything that I do, and especially in the book. So I've always wanted to add that other book in me, sometimes a lot of us always do. And I've been thinking about it, and in teaching one of my classes, one of my students, a bright young woman called Izzy Sellon, had a project that she had to do for one of her classes, which was interview someone that you think has had an interesting career, and then report on it for their class in a live video. So she chose me. I was honored that she did. And she said, I have 15 minutes, let's talk about it. And I started to give her my story. And about an hour and a half later, we were finished. And Izzy, looked at me and she said, this is a great story, Hank. You should, let's spend the class, tell the class about that. And then I thought, what the heck? Why don't I tell the world about it? And she was the one that gave me the push and the kick in the butt to do what I've been wanting to do. So that's how I got to the book. And it's a really interesting three-parter, as I say. It's a career memoir. So it takes a insightful look at my career from February 1965 to today. And it's a longitudinal look at the marketing business, particularly the ad business. And I'm still in it today. And so I have a very, very different and interesting perspective than most people you'll see in this business. And it is the good and the bad and the ugly of all of that. And then what I extracted from those, each chapter has a section that is my, advice, things I learned from what you just read about. And then I take also the things that I was involved in from a marketing point of view, and I create a tips section, marketing tips section at the end of each chapter. So it's a multifunctional book that way. I made it interactive. I put QR codes in it for the print version and links. I have a website with it. So when I talk about, for example, being involved in the Mr. Whipple campaign for Charmin, I have a link to the original commercials that we worked on. So it's very interactive. It was a thrill to write. It took 18 months. And man, it was a journey, and it was a cathartic journey. God, did I learn a lot more about myself than I ever thought. And so that's how I got there. And the other thing it did is it made me appreciate, Brian, and you and I talk about this all the time, how wonderful life is, and how you have so many mentors and people that touch you that you sometimes take for granted, often take for granted, and don't appreciate. And it just resurrected all of that in me. And my writing partner, Kathy, had a little saying she always used to say to me was, live your legacy now, Hank. Don't leave a legacy. So this is part of that. So I loved it, and it's been a great experience.
Wow. You and I, we've talked about this. I didn't come to appreciate all of the things that you said until I went through the life scale journey as I was writing that book, and that opened my eyes and my heart and my mind in ways that had been closed that I didn't know about before. And it's like you said, living your legacy. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing that with Hank and Hank with us. So let's jump into a couple of things that, to find that balance between, this ad guy, this madman, to someone who gives back so graciously to the community, to students, and also to marketers who are still out there trying to figure it out. It's a whole different world now, for sure. Before I go into this question, though, I do want to take a moment to say again, thank you to the community and the audience for being part of our live show. Please do share with us where you're tuning in from. Share with us your questions, your comments, your observations. You are part of this show. We will feature them on screen, and John and I will be getting better at going back into the comments and responding to people post-show as well, so that this is an active community. So, Hank, you and I had already been focusing on how digital was changing the world in 2005, 2006, really with social starting to democratize the idea of marketing. But now also with the last year of just that acceleration in digital transformation, and I don't mean digital transformation in the buzzword sense. I mean like in us, we became digital first in everything that we were doing. How do you see the role of a marketer now changing in 2021 and beyond?
Well, first of all, you're right. We were early on that digital transformation, and it I don't think either one of us back in then, and I was learning from you, really saw where it was going to go and how important it was going to be. And what I say is the pandemic has basically just accelerated everything that's been going on in digital by 3 to 5 years. And what I think it's made marketing even more exciting and profound and important than it's ever been. And I really mean this. I've been in this game for a long time. I wish I was in my student seats right now. Man, could we really rock it a lot more than we have. It's the most exciting time I've ever seen. And there's 3 reasons why it is. One, first and foremost, we're finally living up to what we paid lip service to, that the consumer is in charge. We follow them. We're not the ones that are driving it. The consumer's driving it. Terrific, because that's where we should always have been. The second one is we live in glass houses in marketing today. There's no BS, what you say you have to do. And if you don't, you get called out for it, and you get rewarded and or punished for it appropriately. And then the third thing that I think makes it so important for marketers in marketing is that the culture of the company, which used to be behind walls and so on, is now part of the equity of companies and brands. And the marketing department is at the forefront, I think, of making sure that culture oozes out of a company. Simple little thing like today, where we've moved beyond segmentation and who the consumer is to creating these things called personas, which are very, very deep and different. And I just had a great session last night with my MBA class. And when we create those personas that take a deep dive into the who and the why and the behavior and motivation of the people we serve, it's our responsibility to make sure that they are infused in everyone in the company. So it takes that CMO role and really broadens it out. You used the term once, I remember, that stuck with me. They become the chief experience officer as opposed to the chief marketing officer. And it's really important. So the aspirational aspects of being in marketing and a CMO are really very powerful in the difference you can make. Coincidentally, the average tenure of the CMO today is the lowest in the C-suite. It's about 40 months. It started to go up, and now it's starting to go down again. So there's a lot of turmoil there and change, but it is a fantastic business to be in, because It is a force for good. Period.
Hank, did you say 40?
40 months.
I just read something recently, and I was going to ask you about this. That I read 18, and that it had radically dove because the role of the CMO was becoming too great. In terms of, if you think about like why it's so exciting, is that everything about marketing is changing, but then you also bring in customer experience, and then you also add innovation in AI, automation, and all of these incredible arrays of technology that allow us to be better marketers, which was becoming just like way too much for one CMO to handle. So what, if you had to reimagine the role for now, and then John, this will be my last question. I'll throw it over to you. What Hank would you define for that existing CMO or that budding CMO? Like, what does that role need to be to break those records and thrive and survive and outlast everyone?
Yeah, well, just by the way, that's number that I quoted was Spencer Stewart's study that they've done, and I'll send it to you just to maybe we can cross-check numbers. But I think you really have to take on the role that you are the inspirational person, but you're no longer about ads and commercials. You're about creating those experiences. So the budding CMOs today, if you don't have some kind of analytics in your DNA, you're not going to really go anywhere. You have to understand that, and the smart CMOs get that under their belt, and then recognize that analytics and data, well, we have to essential in being a data-driven business models, but the role of the CMO is to take the insights out of that and motivate. And when CMOs get caught up in my database is bigger and better than yours, is when they fail. It is when the CMOs understand that data is there to better inform everything they do to touch and motivate their customer and be in service to them. And the other thing that CMOs have got to realize is, you mentioned they're the chief customer service officer as well, because the things that they use in social media are where you go as a consumer for that. And then the third part that they integrate into it is the whole sustainability and corporate purpose. It is very much integrated into that CMO function. And then you lay on top of that, there's we used to be responsible in marketing for the ROE, the return on engagement by consumers, but now more and more that's morphing into the return on investment as well. So all of that comes together and makes the job much harder and more exciting. But you really have to play totally different roles and recognize that you are, and just almost start from scratch and redefining that role.
Yeah, well said. John, over to you, my friend.
So I wanted to ask about the question of authenticity. We're in this very odd historical moment where we have two political machines that are marketing diametrically opposed views of reality. But that also extends to other domains as well. I had a really kind of hair-raising experience recently, which was Googling the term innovation consultant, which I guess Brian and I are kind of accused of being once in a while. And I got 227 million hits for that term. And, when we started out, there were a handful, and now there are thousands, tens of thousands of people who are, so differentiation is important. So how does authenticity, or the ability to convey authenticity, play into a world where everybody's trying to get their chunk of airtime and out authentic the next guy?
Yeah, the great question. That's one that I ponder a lot, and done some reading on it and studying it. But one thing I'm do is I never use the word. I stopped using the word authenticity. Because I think it is one of those overused marketing hyped things. You either authentic or you ain't. You can't practice it. You can't try to be it. You can't do this. You either are or you're not. And Seth Godin had a term that I embraced, which was be sincere. Take authenticity and put sincerity in your mind. Be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I really believe this. This is who we are as a company. And everything you do has got to be in service to that. One of the biggest areas of concern for me today is that whole area of purpose-driven marketing. It is a powerful force. It is something that is now integrated into brands, but it's a slippery slope. And I have a point of view that says purpose has got to be organically grow from a brand, or you adapt it to your brand. If it doesn't, it's just another appendage and an add-on of what's the woke meme of the moment. And I see much too much of that. So I have a point that says the way you get to your purpose is you're defining what your brand mission is. You have brand values that Jim Stengel discusses in his book. You have a clearly defined positioning statement. You have your brand voice and your tone and manner. Then once you're there, you then go and say, okay, what causes am I going to be behind? What's my purpose going to be? Because it's going to flow organically from me, rather than saying, this is trending today and I'm going to do it. It's okay. Sure. There are no bad causes. They're all good causes, but it just becomes gratuitous and an appendage. So I think it is one of the most powerful tools we have. And to your point, one of the most one of the most challenging. And just, give you a point of view that a lot of people don't agree with me on. I think that from a marketer's point of view, we have no business being in politics. We should be about policy, and we should be about what our values and how they're reflected. But going down on putting feet in different political camps, just I think diminishes the causes and diminishes the politics of it. There are a lot of people that don't agree with me about that.
Well, I understand what you're saying in terms of keeping a kind of high moral ground in society relative to the hurly-burly of politics, but there are thousands of people who are in the marketing end of politics. And, I guess maybe authenticity, let's set that word aside, but there's also the word truth. Mm-hmm. And, historically, I think one of the reasons people have been historically suspicious about marketing is because it's dressing anything up and selling it, right? And hopefully getting people to buy it. And, we see this in the political sphere. We see this in the trending sphere. I'm seeing it in the innovation consultant sphere. And I'm just wondering how the discipline of marketing, and I think we can call it a discipline, is going to address the issues of truthfulness in also a data-driven, algorithm-driven world where, statistics, in a sense, are going to replace, let's not use the word authenticity, but sincerity or truthfulness as the criterion for making the purchase decision.
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's three words that I always use when I say we have to work to in marketing. It's truth, transparency, and trust, and those three guideposts should guide everything you do. There is no substitute for the truth. Period. There isn't. A lie is a lie. A truth is a truth. In marketing, what we, as I use the analogy sometimes, if I'm going out on a date, I want to show up as who I am, but I'll make sure I put on a clean shirt and I'll make sure I shave that day. But who I am is showing up. And I think marketers have, unfortunately today, tried to shade things where the person that's showing up at that consumer's door and asking for permission to come in isn't really them. It's someone they're dressing up the wrong
somebody
way.
Else. Yeah.
And that is bad. That will never win. It's like spam. You don't build a business on spam, and it catches up with you. It always does. I've always seen it. It catches up with you all the time.
Well, we'll see what happens in the midterm elections, and see if that gets worn out.
Hey, John, let me ask you a question, John.
Sure.
Why are we fixated from a marketing point of view? I'm not talking about a personal point of view on the midterm elections.
Why are we, or why am I?
No, just the world. Sometimes, putting it from the market. I understand it reflects it all, but what you have to do as a business person and a marketer is understand that is one element of what's going on. There's so much more that you have to do to be in service to a customer. So I get concerned about some of that we let that go too far to the forefront because we've been beat over the head with all of it, right or wrong. And I don't have any point of view about either one.
Hey, John, before you answer, I want to share a couple of stats because Yosh is backstage and this has the full ability to become an hour-long conversation. One thing is that, to balance both sides of the conversation, consumers our own Salesforce research shows that consumers say that trust has skyrocketed to the top of the list that they want in a brand, and so have values. And so I want to set the stage here. In fact, just in the last year, 61% of consumers reported stopping business with a brand whose values didn't align with theirs. So I wonder if in a world of intentional disinformation and divide, if we're not going to get it from our elected representatives in terms of truth, then it's going to have to come from somewhere. And John, I'll just kind of leave that over to you to respond.
The issue is there's no consumer reports for facts that relate to what's going on politically or socially. I mean, Consumer Reports can rate what a better loudspeaker is for your computer or something like that. But we're in the situation where truth has taken a backseat to marketing efficacy, and that's why, in a way, we have this equal but opposite, almost like Buridan's ass phenomenon, where you can't move. So I mean, it's a big question that we probably would need another half hour to unpack. I just want to ask one more question of Hank, because this is such a great opportunity. What do you know now that you didn't know when you were starting out, that's reflected in the, let's say, the distilled essence or the wisdom that's coming through in your book, which I now just ordered on Amazon, by the way?
Before you answer that, can we also weave in Ken's question here as well? Because I think that they're going to complement each other. Which is basically, how are young professionals able to move in this? What advice do you have for students? Yeah. Is the traditional education what they need? Is street smarts what they need? That especially as the world of marketing is changing so fast, what advice do you have for them?
Well, it's I can go on for a lot, but I'll try to make it quick. The things that I wish that I look at now is, I never realized how important mentors were going to be in my life. And I think students and people starting out today don't look at it that way. They look at, gee, where am I going to get this job? Is it the brand name cool when I go into it, et cetera? Rather than adding to that equation is, am I going to be able to, early on in my career, latch on to and get mentors that are going to really keep me going on every stepping stone? And I really encourage students to really look for that and find that and put their hand up all the time and saying, how did you do that? Why did you do it? It's the gift that keeps on giving. And the important thing for students today is they have the opportunity to be reverse mentors, because the people that are hiring them are in their 40s, et cetera, and they're looking for them to teach them on how to use and manage these great digital tools. And the other thing that I did, and this may surprise you, is I didn't discover the importance of giving back and volunteering until later in my career. And I wish the heck I would have discovered it early. I'm on the board of the American Heart Association. I've been with them for 18 years now, and it's made me better at everything I do in business. So those are the two things that, aside from all the technical things that I put in to help rally themselves as people and grow as people and learn from that. And then the other thing, young people starting out, really, really, really look yourself in the mirror, find out who you are, and don't, find those mentors and go in and ask questions, ask and surround yourself with those mentors initially that are going to help you grow, and never be afraid to admit what you don't know. But, if you're going into marketing, though, make sure you have some analytics in your background. You need it, not because you have an analytics grad, but because that's going to enable you to really know your customer better and keep yourself focused on that North Star. Everything in marketing is focused on the North Star. And I think I borrowed this phrase from you, Brian, that I tell all my students: when you go in, and no matter whether you're going to do an analytics program, create an ad, or write an email, put in your mind this thought: what will my mobile customer think, feel, and do? And create everything with that in mind: the head, the heart, and the action that you want. So that's my advice to you.
Excellent.
That's a wonderful way to leave us, Hank. I always enjoy our time together. I do look forward to you and John spending more time together as well. It's one of the reasons why we do this show. So, Hank, I'll see you maybe next time in your classroom. You will. You'll both be there. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. Is a pleasure to have you, Hank. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Hank.